Hey there, welcome. Before we get into today's story, I'm curious, where are you tuning in from right now? Are you in a busy urban area or maybe somewhere quieter, surrounded by nature? Wherever you happen to be, I'm grateful you're here with me. And if you haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly means everything and helps us create more content just like this. Now, let me share something that caught me completely off guard. It was my son's birthday celebration. Marcus was turning 11, and like any parent, I wanted to give him a day worth remembering. Our patio was transformed with colorful decorations, lanterns and ribbons dancing softly in the wind. The aroma of sizzling chicken and roasted corn drifted through the air, bringing back memories of my own childhood, when celebrations meant nothing but pure happiness and carefree moments. We had invited several of his classmates, some familiar faces, and a few I was meeting for the first time. The sun was slowly sinking toward the horizon, painting everything in shades of amber and rose, while children's voices filled the space with joyful sounds. It was one of those magical evenings where everything seemed perfectly aligned, but then, midway through the celebration, something unusual happened. My son's classmate, Ethan, the reserved one who rarely spoke up, approached me directly. He was close to Marcus's age, perhaps 12, but something about him set him apart from the other children. Perhaps it was how he observed more than he participated, or the way he seemed to carry an invisible burden on his young shoulders. I knew very little about his family situation, but I sensed he was different somehow. He walked toward me, hands buried deep in his sweatshirt pockets, looking at me with those thoughtful hazel eyes of his. "Excuse me," he said, his voice quiet but clear. "Could I speak with you privately?" I was caught off guard. It was unusual for him to seek me out individually. Normally he just stayed near Marcus and the group, never calling attention to himself. I nodded, stepping aside from the others to give him room. "Of course, what's going on?" I asked, offering him a gentle smile. It felt slightly unusual, but he seemed like he had something significant to share. He paused briefly before continuing. "I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your kindness toward me. My parents are always occupied with work, and I rarely get opportunities to experience gatherings like this. You've consistently been warm and welcoming to me, even when I stay quiet. I'm not sure if anyone has mentioned it, but it truly matters." His words stunned me. I had never considered Ethan as someone who noticed such details. Honestly, I simply treated him the way I would treat any child at the party, with warmth and hospitality, nothing extraordinary. But the sincerity in his voice made me stop and think. I hadn't realized it, but he had been observing me, noticing the subtle gestures that others might miss. He recognized compassion, and it had touched him deeply. For a moment, words escaped me. I smiled, feeling a blend of warmth and astonishment. "Ethan, that's very sweet of you," I finally responded. "You're always welcome in our home. I'm happy you feel comfortable here." A long silence followed, and I watched him lower his gaze briefly, as though collecting his thoughts. Then he looked up again, his expression steady. "I suppose I've never really been able to express myself to anyone this way, but you've consistently made me feel valued. I know it probably sounds strange, but it's honest." My heart melted. It wasn't strange at all. In fact, I had no idea how much my simple actions had meant to him. The quiet compassion, the gentle acknowledgement of his presence, it all accumulated, and in that instant, it reminded me how profoundly our behavior can affect others. This was no longer just a birthday gathering. It was a powerful lesson that the most basic things, compassion, attention, presence, could transform someone's entire world, especially someone who might feel overlooked. Ethan's words lingered with me long after he returned to the other children, merging with their laughter and conversation. It was a pivotal moment for me. I hadn't anticipated hearing something like that. Certainly not from him, but I'm deeply grateful I did. And so, as the celebration continued, I found myself contemplating something I hadn't considered in years. How frequently do we genuinely acknowledge the people surrounding us? How often do we truly perceive them? The afternoon had transitioned into evening, and the warm golden light had given way to gentle shades of dusk. The children's laughter still resonated through the space, but now there was a deeper tranquility that had settled over everything. The sounds of the gathering, the sizzle of food cooking, the murmur of casual discussions, Everything felt serene, as though time had deliberately slowed for our benefit. I found myself drifting back to where Ethan had approached me earlier, my thoughts still dwelling on his words. It was remarkable how something so straightforward could leave such a profound impression. It wasn't as if I had done anything remarkable, but Ethan had helped me recognize how significant those small gestures truly were. I wondered how many other moments in my life I had overlooked without fully appreciating them. As I rejoined the celebration, Marcus came rushing toward me, his cheeks pink with excitement. He had gathered a small group of his friends, and they all appeared to be having an incredible time. "Mom, can you photograph us? We want to capture this day," he requested, his eyes sparkling with happiness. I smiled and agreed, retrieving my phone from the table where I'd placed it. As I clicked the camera and captured the moment, I noticed Ethan standing apart from the group, watching the other children with a contemplative expression. Part of me wanted to approach him, to check if he was enjoying himself, but I hesitated, uncertain how to engage him again. After our earlier exchange, I didn't want to impose or make him feel awkward, but then, from the corner of my vision, I saw him begin walking in my direction. His head was slightly lowered, his hands stuffed back into his sweatshirt pockets. As he drew nearer, I felt a tightness in my chest. There was something about his demeanor. He was still that thoughtful, introspective child. But now I couldn't dismiss the feeling that there was much more beneath the surface than I had understood. "Hey, Ethan," I said, giving him a welcoming smile. I understood how frequently we neglect to listen to the quiet ones, those who don't always voice their feelings but carry them deeply inside. As the celebration extended into the night, the atmosphere shifted once more. The children gathered around the outdoor fireplace for marshmallow roasting, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames. Stars began appearing overhead, and for a fleeting moment everything felt suspended, as though the universe had paused exclusively for us. I observed Ethan, seated at the edge of the group, his attention fixed on the fire. There was something about him that seemed beyond his years, as if he had experienced more of life than I could possibly comprehend. But in that moment, I also recognized a child simply searching for his place in everything. As I watched him, a realization struck me. Sometimes the individuals who appear most distant, those who don't quite belong, are the ones requiring the most consideration. They might not always request it, but they recognize when you extend it, and that was something I wanted to hold on to. As the night progressed, the celebration began winding down. The children's energy had started to diminish, their chatter transforming into drowsy whispers as they collected their belongings and exchanged farewells. I stood near the entrance, expressing gratitude to each one as they departed, watching the lively group gradually disperse. The joy and energy had faded, but I could still sense the warmth lingering in the atmosphere, like the gentle glow following a stunning sunset. Ethan was among the last to leave. He waited near the edge of the driveway for his mother to arrive, hands in his pockets, sweatshirt pulled snugly around him. The temperature had dropped, and I noticed he wasn't wearing a jacket. Without hesitation, I grabbed a fleece blanket from the porch chair and walked over to him. "Hey, Ethan," I said softly. "It's getting pretty cold out here. Take this so you don't get sick." He looked at me surprised. "Oh, thanks," he replied, accepting the blanket with a small, appreciative smile. I hadn't even realized how cold it got. We stood there momentarily, the evening settling into a peaceful stillness, the distant sound of passing cars and the occasional whisper of wind through the trees were the only noises surrounding us. I wasn't certain if I should speak further. Part of me felt like I had already shared enough earlier, but something compelled me to continue the conversation. "I've been reflecting on what you mentioned earlier," I finally admitted, looking at him. "About not always belonging. I just want you to understand that being different is perfectly acceptable. In fact, it's what makes you fascinating." He shifted his weight slightly as though uncertain how to react. "I'm not sure. Sometimes I feel completely invisible, like I'm present but nobody actually notices me, not the way they notice everyone else." I could see the vulnerability in his expression, something raw and authentic that he hadn't revealed to anyone else. It made me pause. Ethan wasn't merely struggling to belong. He was struggling to be acknowledged. And in that moment, I comprehended how much weight those unexpressed emotions must have carried for him. "I notice you, Ethan," I said, my voice gentle but certain. "I've always noticed you. and I believe you're far more exceptional than you realize. It's simply about finding people who value who you truly are." His expression softened, and for a brief instant, I thought I detected a flash of relief cross his face. "I wish I could accept that," he murmured. "Sometimes I just feel like nobody understands." "I understand," I said, my heart reaching toward him in a way I hadn't anticipated. I wasn't his parent. Yet in that moment I sensed something profound connecting us. A shared comprehension that had emerged from the smallest acts of compassion, from listening to each other when nobody else bothered. We stood there in comfortable silence for a while, the only sound the distant chirping of nighttime insects. And then, just as the darkness began closing in around us, his mother's car approached. "Well, I suppose this is goodbye for tonight," Ethan said, his voice quieter now but carrying something warmer within it. I smiled and nodded. "Take care of yourself, Ethan. You're always welcome here." He gave me a small, genuine smile. "Thanks, I will, and thank you for listening. It meant everything." As he climbed into the car and waved farewell, I felt something within me transform. It wasn't merely about the celebration anymore. It wasn't simply about marking another year of Marcus's life. It was about something more profound, about recognizing the individuals around us, those who don't always seek assistance but need it nonetheless. And Ethan, in his own quiet manner, had demonstrated that to me. The following days passed in a peaceful blur. Life resumed its familiar rhythm: responsibilities, tasks, school transportation. But something had shifted within me, and I couldn't escape the feeling that my encounter with Ethan had created a lasting impact. I found myself thinking about him more frequently than expected, wondering how he was managing, whether he felt any different following our conversation. It wasn't merely that I had listened to him, though that had mattered. It was that I had genuinely perceived him. I recognized how often I moved through life surrounded by people, my family, friends, even strangers, and how infrequently I paused to truly observe them. I had been guilty of rushing past moments, assuming everyone was fine, that everyone had their lives figured out. But Ethan had revealed something crucial to me. Sometimes the most silent individuals carry the heaviest loads, and sometimes all they require is a small amount of attention to feel significant. A week later, something unexpected arrived. It was a modest envelope, handwritten and addressed to me. My heart fluttered as I opened it, and inside I discovered a simple message written in Ethan's careful handwriting. "Thank you for truly hearing me. I've never had someone like you in my life before, and I wanted you to know how much it meant. I don't think I'll ever forget this celebration." The words affected me in ways I hadn't expected. I didn't know if Ethan had expressed those feelings to anyone else, but I understood now that our conversation had been more than just a fleeting encounter. It had been meaningful for both of us. In some small way, it had enabled both of us to grow. The message was placed in my kitchen drawer, a quiet reminder of the difference one person can create in another's existence. Weeks passed, and I found myself making a more deliberate effort to truly perceive the people around me. I took time to listen more attentively, to ask meaningful questions, to slow down when I felt like rushing. It wasn't only Ethan who required that attention. It was everyone, my friends, my family, even strangers I encountered throughout my day. We all need to be acknowledged, and more importantly, we all need to sense that our existence matters. One afternoon, while shopping for groceries, I encountered Ethan and his mother in the fresh produce section. He smiled at me, somewhat reserved, but with an expression in his eyes that conveyed he was doing well. "Hey, Ethan," I said, returning his smile. "How's everything been?" He gave a small nod, his face brightening slightly. "Things are good. Really good, actually. Thanks for everything. I've been feeling more at ease lately. It's been wonderful." I couldn't suppress my smile. It transcended the mere words. It was how he delivered them, the assurance in his voice, as though he was beginning to have faith in himself a little more. "You're welcome," I said softly. "Just continue being yourself, all right?" Ethan smiled once more, and for the first time it wasn't merely a courteous expression. It was a smile that communicated genuine connection, a quiet understanding between us that expressed everything without requiring words. As I watched him depart with his mother, I experienced a profound sense of tranquility settle within my chest. I had created a difference, however modest, and in return, Ethan had offered me something I hadn't even realized I was missing, a reminder of what it genuinely means to be perceived. And just like that, everything had come full circle. It wasn't about magnificent gestures or life-altering moments. It was about paying attention, about investing the time to truly acknowledge someone and communicating that they matter. In that quiet, intimate exchange, I had discovered not merely a connection with a young boy, but a deeper understanding of how essential it is to see the people surrounding us for who they genuinely are. And as I walked back to my car that day, I knew that somehow everything had transformed, for him and for me.